Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford, the man on the moose, and on our journey today, there's almost no news, but we're going to do a whole rumor roundup, so jump right into the Xbox Drive. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to do it live. Where's the button? There it is.
Hello, Sean Capri.
Ryan Turford, there was at least 3 lies in the intro there, my friend. I'm not on a Skype call with you. I'm on a Discord call. I'm not in my car. I'm in my basement. I think that might have been it. I was riddled with lies, but there's a very good reason for it. But before we get to that, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I hope no one can hear the massive amount of noise that's coming from outside right now, because someone decided right now, right as we're starting this podcast, to start jackhammering right outside my front entrance. I'm glad that my microphone's not picking it up, but it's definitely something. It's a little distracting, but we're gonna make it through this show. This rumor-filled episode of the Xbox Drive, which is something we don't really do on this show very often. Also, shout out to chat, because we're doing this live, who commented on your wardrobe change, Sean.
My wardrobe change. Yes, I've got a Series X hoodie, a black hat. We've got it all. We're all matching. And for anybody listening to this on the audio feeds, we mentioned this on the show last week, Ryan Turford, but today is Yumi Capri Day. We're doing a 10-hour live stream. We announced a whole bunch of changes. There's new shows. There's new tiers. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Actually, we smashed through a bunch of our goals. So part of today is recording the Xbox Drive live. So if anybody's wondering, hey, it's Thursday, why haven't I hit my feed yet? If you were wondering why it's late, this is why. And Ryan Turford, what a day it has been, my friend.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy just seeing the community in full force today.
Big time.
Coming here to hang out with us on Yumi Capri Day, a national holiday. A new national holiday, Yumi
New
Capri
national
Day.
holiday.
They're going to let kids out of school for this one. You know, we're going to get double time and a half if we have to work today. It's just this is how Yumi Capri Day works. And if your boss or your teacher doesn't know how that works, you can just say, oh, well, Ryan and Sean said it was okay. So
exactly. I thought your boss, like your boss. I thought you were going there a little bit. Ryan, we have a whole bunch of new content that people are going to be, they can go check out at patreon.com/Yumi Capri. People have supported us to such immense degree that we're going to be starting. This is no joke. This sounds like we're going to be making this up, but this is not a joke. The Nintendo Drive is going to happen. The PlayStation Drive is going to happen. Ryan is actually starting a RPG podcast called the RPG Cave. I have started a new podcast called Sweet Hangs. It's with Donnie Reese from the Xbox Empire, who people who have listened to this show, they know Donnie. He's been on the show. We've shared the feeds across the board. Check out those shows right now. And if you want to continue to support the show and everything that we do here at Yumi Capri, go to patreon.com/Yumi Capri. Ryan, I'm just going to jump right in to cleaning the garage, if that's okay with you. Because we're going to do this.
That's kind of what we've been doing this whole time.
Yeah, we're
scrubbing the garage down.
We're gonna do things a little differently today, because again, I'm in my basement, and it's a fresh start. It's a national holiday, as you mentioned, and we're going to thank some of the people who support us over at patreon.com/Yumi Capri. More than 60 people, and more. We've doubled our goal, or what we're raising this time just yesterday, which is incredible. PlayStation Drive, Nintendo Drive chat is actually, maybe some people in the chat are just hearing this for the first time ever. So yes, lots of stuff coming. And I want to thank everybody who supports us at patreon.com/Yumi Capri, especially our Capremium producers like Drew Agnew, who I just saw up at the Capremium level, which means when you're at the Capremium level, we're going to give you a little plug, a little shout out, a little like, what do you do? So please, everybody, support Drew at the House of Mario podcast, an amazing Australian-based podcast. Please support the House of Mario. Jonathan Brown, an incredible music producer, and I've forgotten my notes here, Ryan Turford. If you can help me out on the actual website that he's got there.
Purple Monkey Ent.com is the website. Purple Monkey Entertainment, of course, is his brand. Go check out Jonathan Brown's stuff, especially because he actually did the theme song to this show, Sean.
That's right. So if you like that, then you might like anything else that he's doing over there. Lee Navarro from Phoenix Overdrive and Extra Life, you guys. And we're going to get these. We're just launching into this thing. So you guys, Capremium producers, send me your plugs. So I'm not making up on the spot here. So thank you to our Capremium producers, our Platinum producers, Brian Scott, Dallas Ford, Dano, and Trucker Sloth, and all of our amazing gold members, Argo, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Emily O'Keely, Heather Boney, James Johnson, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez back, and Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, Xavier Reyes, and that's it. Thank you guys so much. Holy crap. Amazing support at patreon.com/UmiCapri, and lots of benefits. I feel like I've talked about the Patreon maybe enough for today, Ryan Turford.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get the show early and all that good stuff. So definitely head over patreon.com/UmiCapri. Put a little tip in that tip jar if you want to help us out. Also, if you'd like to help us out another way, of course, we do have a free option of helping the show as well. Subscribe to us on your podcast service of choice or on YouTube at youtube.com/the Xbox Drive. We put up the show in video form every single week. Again, this one's going to be a little bit late because we're doing things a little bit differently this week, but of course it comes out every Thursday. We also have live streams on there as well, like Halo Saturdays, as well as any other live streams we'll do. Again, we talked about it on UB Capri Day a little bit earlier today. I'm going to be live streaming more on the channel. It just happens to be that my internet's terrible in my current apartment, but I'm moving at the end of the month, which should fix that issue. So actually, you're going to see a lot more of me doing some live streaming on the channel as well. So head on over to youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, hit a little subscribe button, maybe ring that bell, because that's what all those YouTubers tell you to do is ring the bell or the dingle dangle or whatever else you want to call it.
The dingle dangle.
The dingle dangle. Or one other way to help out the show, which we got out of nowhere this week, Apple Podcasts allows you to leave reviews, and we don't read Apple Podcast reviews that often. We don't actually get them that often, but they really help the show grow in a lot of ways. So we're going to actually read an Apple Podcast review. This is actually from April 2nd. This is from, and I'm going to hope I don't butcher your name.
Kirbyville.
This one. Kirbyville. Kirbyville says, a great informative show with a bit of fun. I've been listening to the show for over a year now, and for me, it's one of the few shows that just focuses on positivity. The amount of games that Ryan runs through gives me a lot of insights. When I see Sean driving, I'm always timing him until his inevitable McDonald's stop. This is the YouTube channel /Twitch that their charity work and Halo Saturdays keeps us listeners /players engaged. I'm out. Bah!
I love it. Anytime a review just basically tells about all the things that we do every single week. We got a bar, we got a McDonald's drive-thru in there, man. Thank you so much. And you're right, Ryan. It really helps the show grow. We got to chase. You know what, guys? Like, can we just say one thing? Like, we got Babbit here in the chat, twitch.tv/Sean Capri. He's running the trophy room over there. He's running away with Apple Podcasts or Apple reviews. Okay, we got to. Can we at least catch him? You know, and eventually I'd like to pass him. But he's got like 120 or 150 reviews over there, okay? Like, I can't handle this, all right?
I mean, the trophy room for the players, by the players, twitch.tv/PS Trophy Room, Sean.
What are you plugging them for? We can plug to Apple. Go to use your Apple thing and leave a review, 5-star, leave a comment, and let's crush it. We got to bury the trophy room, okay?
Oh my God.
Under a landslide
the call
of
to
Apple
action
reviews.
has been placed. I'm sorry, Joseph. You know, I tried.
Matty Maps is in the chat. He wants to know how many A's are in the BAW, and we will find out, maybe, Ryan, because we're going to launch a merch store, and we might have a little Xbox little shirt. I've been thinking about that for a long time. See what I did there?
My God. Anyways, we're going to grab our 8-tracks, Sean. Pop them in. It's time for the playlist, and let's talk about the games we've been playing this week, which, again, not much has really changed since last week, unfortunately, with some of our games. So, Sean, I'm going to let you go first because I know Outriders is probably going to be a pretty quick chat.
Yeah, Outriders is still happening, and one thing that I would say is I've been jumping in and out of people's games and not realizing, like, I've mentioned I've liked the story, like how the setting is terrible, like the terrible things, awful things are happening to these people, and I was following along, and then I think I might have jumped in with either you or Ed or somebody, and then came back to my game. I didn't realize that where you, like, if I jump into your game, then come back and play single player game on my own, it's not going to put me back to where I last played. It's going to put me back to like where you and I last played, or the last game that I did. At least that seems to be the default. And I think I skipped some of the story a little bit, dude. I was like, who is this August character? I don't know where this person, they seem central to the story. I don't really understand what is going on here, but nonetheless, it doesn't really matter because I'm piecing it together. It's not a terribly complicated story, and I'm still loving it. I'm seeing people online doing their expeditions or whatever it's called. And I'm like, I thought there was no end game to this, but this is I love jumping in and playing with other people. It seems to be kind of where I'm at with Outriders and having the different combinations of character classes all merged together. And I love doing the dome thing, and somebody else comes in with their pyro business, and it's still a lot of fun for me, man.
Very nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you're still having fun with it. It's a game that, again, I just haven't. This week has been like not the typical Ryan Turford week of having lots of free time.
Same.
I've been very busy this week with working extra hours and going after like apartment insurance is like was a whole ordeal this week. So for me, I've barely had time to touch Outriders, and it's a game I've really wanted to get back to. Yeah. But I did play one game this week that I wanted to highlight real quick, and that's Crysis Remastered, which actually got a Xbox Series X and S patch this week. I famously talked about Crysis Remastered at the end of last year, where we actually got a code from it from the developers, and I decided to check it out. Yeah. And I did not have positive things to say about it back then because it barely ran on Xbox One, and it like with all kinds of weird graphical issues and stuff like that. All that's pretty much been fixed at this point.
Oh wow!
But I'm still not really into it. I mean, I think
still Crysis.
It's still Crysis, yeah, which I think is just hit or miss with people. I don't particularly think that the gameplay loop has really aged super well, or at least from my perspective anyways. I know people have said differently because I know a lot of people actually really like Crysis, and I know that I'm not on the same side as a lot of other people. But I do think, though, if you were at all interested in checking it out, like this is the patch that is made it, for me, say it's okay to probably check out this game now. Especially if you're going to check it out on the new consoles. It's still pretty much broken on Xbox One, so don't play it there.
Yeah.
But if you're playing it on the Series S or X, I can confirm it actually runs great on both platforms. So if you ever wanted to check out Crysis, if you wanted a reason to go back to Crysis, if you really like that game, then I would definitely say Crysis Remastered is probably the best way to play that now. Unless you've got a PC. Like if you've got a beefy PC, that's still probably the best place to play it. But definitely if you are playing console only, Series X or S is probably a great place to play it. Although Series S is a bit rickety, even with like some of the frame rate enhancements that they've got on it, because it doesn't really run at lock 60. It runs at like lock 40 or 50.
I saw that. What in the world, Ryan? Like this is, I mean, at one point it used to be cool for you to like, you had the powerful PC, like can it run Crysis, that whole thing. That's not where we want to be on the Xbox Series X. We don't want to be like, it can barely run this game from 12 or 14 years ago.
No, and part of that is just the team that put this together. I don't know what it is, but it's like a very unoptimized version of Crysis.
That's the reason you play it, though. Like that's like you play Crysis, at least historically. It's like to see some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially too with the ray tracing mode that they have in the game, where it's like it uses software-based ray tracing instead of the hardware, so it doesn't really utilize any of the power of the new consoles to do ray tracing. Instead, it uses the software to do it, but in turn, it makes it so that the frame rate runs at like sub 30 sometimes.
Right.
So it's just it's really hard to play. So
unacceptable.
And maybe that's playing a little bit into my enjoyment of revisiting this game.
Of course,
where I'm not really feeling it, but I do think it's in a much better state now than it was before. Like I would say, if you're going to play it, you should play it in the high frame rate, 60 frames per second mode. If you've got a Series X, like that's definitely the best way to play it. But again, it's maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not a Ryan Turford game, but I do know some people who are very excited about this patch. So definitely check that out there. Otherwise, the other free game I've been playing in my free time is just Final Fantasy 14, because it did just get a PS5 patch this week, which
nice.
Unsurprisingly was way better optimized than the Crysis patch. So, but I haven't really touched that a little bit, and it's not an Xbox game, so I'm not going to dwell into here because I'm slamming the brakes on this conversation.
Wait! No, not yet. I'm playing another game, Ryan Turford. It's on my phone. It's not a game. It's an app. The Xbox app has achievements, Ryan Turford. I don't know if you realize that we've seen that this get in test flight, and I can show the chat here as well. It's under your profile picture. You can see, I don't know, have you seen this yet? Have you checked this out?
I have. It's pretty fancy, you know. I actually like the new achievement setup. Like it works out a little bit better, I think, than the old school app.
Well, it's like, hopefully, yes. I can't believe we're celebrating that it's like a feature that used to be there is now back. But I mean, I'm happy about it because now I can remember what I played, because God knows I can't remember what I typically play. So there you go.
I mean, some weeks it could literally just be anything, Sean.
It could be anything. It wasn't really a news story, but I figured I'd slam that in somewhere. So there, now you can slam the brakes on the conversation.
I saw what you did there because I slammed the brakes and you slammed that in there.
Yeah.
Come on,
just jam it in.
All right, let's get to the breaking news. Now, before we get to the rumor talk, because I think that's going to constitute most of the show. I kind of want to get the three little news stories that we got kind of out of the way first.
Sure.
Real quick. And so most of these are actually DLC things, which I think is kind of cool. Unfortunately, though, again, very slow news week in the world of Xbox. Again, everyone's talking about that PlayStation and what's going on over there.
Debacle.
But let's talk about awesome things, including Streets of Rage 4, Sean. Getting a new expansion called Mr. X's Nightmare. It includes 3 new playable characters, including Estelle, who was like the cop from Streets of Rage 4 that was kind of trying to hunt down and stop your team along the way. She's a playable character, which I thought she was going to be an unlockable character. So I was actually a little surprised that she wasn't playable until now. But it's cool to see her in this expansion. It's releasing sometime later this year. I think it's $20. It's going to add this whole other section to the story that they didn't really dive too much into. But it looks really cool. It's got awesome new music from the sounds of it too. So I'm really excited for Streets of Rage 4 getting a new expansion, which looks pretty awesome. And I loved Streets of Rage 4 when it came out, and I'm super excited to play
nice.
it. I think it looks great. So glad to see that getting more love. Also, Jace's favorite game, Wasteland 3, getting a new expansion in the form of the Battle of Steeltown. It will release on June 3rd. They just announced it this morning with a new trailer. Basically going over it. I think it's $13 if you want to pick it up. Although you get a 10% discount on Game Pass. So it's not
so it's not included in Game Pass, not included in Ultimate. It's not a perk or anything.
No, but it'll end up being like $10.
What a weird number.
Yeah. So it's like $10 Canadian, I imagine, with the discount is probably what it's going to be. Also, there's no. They announced that there's going to be more DLC after this, but there's no season pass to buy them together, which is I thought was weird.
That is weird.
But it's cool to see Wasteland 3 getting more content, because I know it's a game that I know you really liked last year.
I liked it.
Playing. And getting to see more like story-based content, I think is pretty cool. So I wanted to make sure it got a little nod on the show here. And last, this one's a Ryan Turford story, and gets me very excited. Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, which we talked about last year at E3, that got that really impressive, like almost like Xenoblade looking trailer. It's getting a beta starting on May 14th. Yeah. That is exclusive to Xbox and PC. Signups will start for Xbox Insiders on April 21st. So you can sign up in a week's time. It's free to sign up, which is cool. And everything they've been showing from New Genesis, it looks like a completely new game. So I'm very excited to check this out. Again, my criticisms with Phantasy Star Online 2 was just, again, it had a lot of dated visuals and gameplay designs that I just didn't think really held up super well. Yeah. So it's cool to see basically them kind of doing like a Final Fantasy 14, a Realm Reborn treatment with Phantasy Star Online 2. And it's cool that we're getting this on Xbox first, I think. Like I'm really hyped about this. So
well, I love it. Ryan, I don't know if you can see in the chat here, Garrett Bland, your new co-host of the RPG Cave, is also excited for PSO 2, man. It's super fun.
Yeah, and also I think that New Genesis is going to be like a really great way to bring new players in. Like I'm seeing some people in the chat as well saying like Skinny Matt, for example, tried PSO 2, but had zero idea what was going on. I think that was the experience a lot of people had, which is why I think like New Genesis is probably going to be the best place for people to start.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a great new beginning for it. So yeah,
Skinny Matt is the Game Pass gamer. You know what I mean? Like Skinny Matt is what they're going for with this sort of thing. I see him streaming over there, twitch.tv/SkinnyMattK, trying the new games, like trying games I don't think he would otherwise try, but Game Pass just kind of allows him to do that sort of thing. I love to see that, dude.
And I mean, Phantasy Star isn't really a Game Pass game. It is a free-to-play game. But I do love that we're getting the Xbox love with this, for sure. Yeah. With this very non-traditional Xbox franchise with Phantasy Star. So
big time.
Awesome to see Sega throw that up there today. But Sean, let's do something we've never really done on the show. Yeah. Something we deliberately don't do on our show. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about a lot of rumors today, Sean.
That's all we got.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the news that's in the world of Xbox this week is A, rumors, or B, all the stuff that we just talked about. So where do you want to start? Do you have a preference on a specific rumor that we want to start with, Sean?
Well, the Kojima one is pretty juicy, man. This Kojima thing, I don't know if you want to kick things off one by one, but I don't know if it's enough to say, we got actually really good feedback. It was last week or the week before. We just dove right into MLB, and not everybody knew what MLB was. So yeah, we can maybe pump the brakes a little bit. We can what is, so when I talk about Kojima, what's happening, if you want to lay out the groundwork here.
So let's talk about Kojima, of course. So the Kojima rumors mostly originated from Jeff Grubb on Twitter, Go follow Jeff Grubb because he's awesome. He's got cool hair. Basically, when there was this game called Abandoned, which got announced for PS5, which it looks like this like first person survival horror game that takes place out in the woods. When people were looking at some of the release information for that game, it seemed like it might be a Hideo Kojima game. However, obviously the publisher of that game went on record saying, hey, by the way, we're not affiliated with Hideo Kojima. I mean, we're an actual developer. Here are some
what
other
an
games
awkward thing to say, to have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really bad for them. And that got the internet talking, which led Jeff to go on Twitter and mention that Abandoned is not a Kojima game because Kojima is in talks to work on a Xbox exclusive IP. Now, of course, if you don't know Hideo Kojima, he's the famous creator of the Metal Gear series from numerous years over at Konami. He also worked on other weird games like Boktai for the Game Boy Advance, which was like a game that involved like solar power. Like you had to play the game in the sun in order for the game to work properly. Or Death Stranding, most famously from a couple years ago, which was the weird game where you carry packages across the country. So, so it was cool to hear Kojima's name come up in Xbox tops. And apparently it's part of like a bigger initiative to basically get Japanese developers to work on Xbox, because we know that Phil Spencer has been trying to court Xbox developer or Japanese developers for Xbox for the longest time. So it's cool to see Kojima's name come up. So Sean, I got to go to you first. What do you think about the rumors of Kojima possibly developing a game exclusively for Xbox?
Doesn't it seem like Xbox is kind of doing all of the things that PlayStation did to win the original, like the last generation? Like they've got the more powerful box. The exclusives seem to matter. They're making, I guess the way to put it to round it all up is like they're making the other ones look like a bunch of dummies in a way. And like, I'm being cutesy about that, but Xbox in the last generation I think looked like a bunch of dummies in a lot of ways. Like what were you doing with Kinect? What are you talking about sports? What are you trying to make people not be able to share their games for? Like we all remember those days very, very closely. And then like PlayStation would come over the top with like, and we saved the day. They were the hero for Hideo Kojima after the Konami business. And I love seeing this from like Phil Spencer's very in touch with the narrative. And there's a lot of talk going around how important is narrative in terms of sales and fanboyism and stuff. But I think that it plays a role. As somebody who's followed this stuff very, very closely over the last couple of years, it seems like you can get a sense of, what are people going to be recommending to their friends and family when they talk about like what gaming system are you playing on? And that starts with kind of this quote unquote hardcore audience. Things like this matter, and it seems to be what PlayStation is kind of walking away from, these intangibles. Like maybe Death Stranding didn't sell a whole lot of copies in the game, but I would argue that things like that helped sell consoles. It helped people believe in that ecosystem, and I think this is huge. If Phil Spencer can leverage Hideo Kojima to talk to his friends and let them all know, everybody developing games over in Japan, like that it's friendly over here in Xbox land, I think that's probably where he's going with this. And the last thing I'll say before throwing it back to you is, Death Stranding had mixed, I would say, response and reaction. If he makes, and this is something Donnie Reese agrees with as well. If he makes a horror game, like if he comes back and like picks up where he left off with PT, then it's just like a crazy, crazy win for Xbox. I think that's what everybody really wants from Kojima at this point.
Yeah, like I think a horror game from Kojima I think would be a slam dunk. I would love to see more of what he's going to do with horror. Interesting enough about this rumor too, it talks a little bit about how Kojima was actually working on a Stadia title at some point that actually got abandoned as part of the shuttering of the Google Stadia studios. And it might just be whatever game he was working for Stadia is the game that they're referencing. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see what that game is. Although the one thing I will say about Kojima that I actually really respect about him is that he's not afraid to try new ideas and do different things and kind of take a well-established genre and to like flip it on its head and do something completely different with it. Like Death Stranding, what I liked about it was that it was like a walking simulator, but done in a completely different way from like every other walking simulator before it. Just like kind of like what he did with Metal Gear, where he took the action genre and added stealth to it and kind of gave it this whole different feel. Or
and
even
cinematic
like
too.
Again, very different ideas from Kojima. So I'm really interested to see whatever this project is, that he's working on. I mean, even though Death Stranding wasn't the type of game that I was really into, I had immense levels of respect for that game. So I'm really interested to see whatever he does next, because I know it's going to be something weird and goofy, and it's probably something I'm going to like, but we'll see. I mean, obviously everyone kind of responds to Kojima differently. And again, it's awesome on Xbox. Like, good on Phil's part for maybe initiating some talks with Kojima and really showing just maybe how serious they are about Japanese studios more than anything. Obviously, we've started to see them creep in with stuff like the Phantasy Star announcement that I just talked about. Like, going more into the Japanese space, I think really is going to help, and maybe getting a big dog like Kojima in their corner, I think is going to probably go a long way in helping court some of these Japanese studios.
But it's again, just different, you know, like it mixes things up quite a lot. Instead of just doing like the Forza, the Gears, the Halo type of thing, like just inherently it's going to mix things up. And of course, Kojima is one of the most creative minds out there, but a lot of people developing games in Japan are creative as well. We need quite a bit more of that, Ryan. And the other thing that kind of popped in my brain here was Kojima has a way of like stoking the hype fire for years. Like, look what he did with Death Stranding. We didn't even know what the heck it was. And people were out there, like, buying PlayStations because the next Kojima game was coming out. We're like, we see, like, the baby. Like, what's with the baby? You know, you can just imagine if this rumor is true, how he'll start to stoke the hype fire for Xbox for years to come. I think that's part of the value here of bringing Kojima
for sure.
over.
And I mean, I know a lot of people think it's weird for Xbox to be courting Japanese developers because they think about it from the lines of, oh, well, Xbox is trying to win Japan, when I would say that's not their goal at all. It's very much to add that Japanese variety to their games. I think exactly. More than anything, that's what they really want.
Well, and it doesn't seem like PlayStation. I think the trophy room would argue as well that they're becoming more American. Like, it seems like they're kind of swapping territories here a little bit, or at least their focus. Whereas PlayStation is leaning into their American studios and their American talent, and Xbox is like, well, there's stuff over there that our fans want over here. So I love it, man. It's a very, very interesting time in the console landscape. So do you hope this is true? Is this something that you obviously like the Japanese
really
stuff
hope
you want?
This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the rumors today that we're going to talk about, like, this is the one where I'm like, yes, please make this
true. Do you think it is? Do you think do you think there's a possibility here?
I'm 50-50 on this. I mean, I think from Kojima's side, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to maybe go into a deal with Microsoft, because they're willing to throw all the money at him and to do whatever he feels like doing with no limits, which has always been kind of Kojima's thing. Whether or not he, wants to sign another contract with a big company is maybe the only thing I'm a little hesitant about. Like, maybe he wants to do his own thing and not tied to
that's true.
A publisher, especially after what happened with Death Stranding, because I know from what we've heard anecdotally, like, Sony wasn't too thrilled about it. So yeah, that's why I'm a little hesitant to say yes, but I think it's probably pretty strong, and definitely with Phil hinting at it in the video with the statue. Like, come on, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So there's something else in this, and we're referencing a Windows article. I think it was Jazz who wrote this. There's something in there that said that everything that was on Phil's shelf during that spotlight is a hint that even the Nintendo thing, the Kojima thing, like, everything that's on there is a hint at something real. And I remember people looking like at it going like, the Kojima thing couldn't be real because, like, what are they going to do? Something with Nintendo because he's got a Switch on there. Like, we kind of like went, obviously this is just his natural shelf, but it seemed like Phil Spencer might be leaning into people scouring the background relentlessly.
For sure. I mean, he's got the Watch Dogs head back there. He's got the Nintendo Switch back there. I mean, it could be all kinds of weird stuff. So, speaking of Nintendo, Sean, we're going to segue into this other rumor of maybe Nintendo and Microsoft teaming up for Game Pass on Switch. Yeah. This one kind of came out of nowhere. I know that Nate the Hate and Spawnwave recorded a podcast pretty recently talking about this rumor that's been going around apparently forever, for the longest time, that would potentially see Game Pass come to Nintendo Switch in some capacity. More than likely, and this is how I would imagine it shaking out, it would probably end up being all the games that aren't already on Switch will be cloud streaming to Switch, essentially. And then any other games that are already on Game Pass that are in Switch, on Switch already, will probably be downloadable on your Switch console. I would imagine that's how it shakes out. But what do you think about this weird rumor about Nintendo and Microsoft possibly teaming up to do a crossover with Game Pass.
It is fueled. It is fueled with spite, Ryan Turford. This rumor, if this is true, the Xbox and Nintendo holding hands, like skipping in the fields and the Japanese fields together, and they kick PlayStation right in the face, man, because they obviously want to crush them. Xbox is on the growth path, and Nintendo is in a surprising, perhaps, position of being number one. Very, very fast selling console. Obviously, I'm very excited about what the future has for perhaps a Super Switch. But I feel like this is a testing ground for what could happen. I think that Nintendo, I've kind of gone back and forth on this. Nintendo might feel so confident in that, like, that they can let Xbox into their walled garden because they go after such a different audience. Where Xbox and PlayStation, it seems like they're competing over the same people. Xbox and Nintendo can go like, okay, you do your like family thing over there. We're trying to like do this thing, and then maybe somewhere in the middle they can kind of coexist. Like that's not going to happen on PlayStation. We can't even get crossplay kind of sorted out normally. We've seen this is not a unique thought or a first thought, but I guess I would be surprised to see what has been an ongoing positive relationship between Xbox and PlayStation. We've seen glimpses of this in the past, and people have heard me on this show and other shows go back and forth to go like, Game Pass on or xCloud on Switch seems like a step too far. But this rumor seems to have a little bit of weight to it. And maybe one of the reasons that we don't do rumors on this is because ultimately you're probably going to sound kind of foolish. If the things that you bite on, like, because I'm biting on this a little bit right now, and like I might look like totally stupid for believing that, like, how on earth could they put xCloud on a Nintendo? Like that sounds silly. But ever since Sonic was on a Nintendo console game, all bets are off, my friend, and it has been crazy ever since then.
Yeah, honestly, again, I'm in the same court as you were on it. The second that we saw Banjo and Smash.
Exactly.
Like, okay, anything is on the table as far as Microsoft is concerned. And again, Phil talked about it before when the Bethesda deal happened, that they are willing to support Bethesda games on platforms that Game Pass is available on, which maybe hints that Game Pass is coming to more platforms than it is already on now, which is PC and Xbox and phones. Like,
right.
I would imagine it's coming. The idea is to get Game Pass on literally everything from Samsung TVs to Nintendo Switch at some point. So yeah, I think it's an entirely plausible idea. Obviously, the only wrench that gets thrown into this obviously is what kind of cut Nintendo gets from this, and whether or not it'll actually be worth it to Microsoft to put this on Nintendo Switch if the cut for Nintendo, let's say, is like 50%, 80%.
I've heard this,
whatever astronomical amount they ask for.
Right? I've heard this pricing model kind of get thrown out there on a couple of podcasts, and I don't know if people want to weigh in on this. That makes zero sense to me, by the way, of like that it'd be a percentage of anything, because you'd never be able to go, this is a Nintendo Game Pass person. Like the idea is that you have Game Pass or xCloud on all these systems, so it would have to be like a back up the truck type of deal. Like basically what they've done for all their exclusives being on Game Pass, like with MLB The Show. What I would imagine is Xbox goes over to Nintendo and goes, here's $1 billion for Xbox. And I don't know if necessarily that's the case either, because it's a mutually beneficial piece, right?
No, I think the way it would probably break out would be like, number one, they can track, obviously, because you'll probably be able to buy your Game Pass subscription through the eShop.
Sure. So maybe, yeah.
So they'll be able to track that. They can also probably track usage on Nintendo Switch.
Sure.
And then maybe there's a percentage that comes out of that, of like the percentage of how often they're playing on Nintendo Switch versus other consoles. Like maybe that factors into it. Like they've probably, if this is a real thing, they've probably factored in some weird percentage that takes into account a bunch of different factors. Sure. Like it's probably not just, like you said, unless there's like a tier that's specifically just Nintendo Switch users. Yeah. They can't just track it based on the Game Pass Ultimate numbers, right? So yeah, there's probably some weird thing in there. And it's just knowing how Nintendo kind of operates, they're going to probably want a large piece of the pie in order for this to happen, especially because, again, the way they look at it too is it probably takes away from potential game sales for some of their other
Possibly.
titles. Or let's say like Halo Infinite comes out the same week as the new
Zelda,
like Breath of the Wild 2 or something like that. Like, and Nintendo has no say about when that comes out. They might look at people playing Halo Infinite on Game Pass on Switch as taking away from sales for Breath of the Wild 2, for example.
But imagine a console, imagine a console, a Switch box with the Game Pass logo on the side of it. Like you buy a Switch and you get 6 months of Game Pass or something like that.
That would be amazing, Sean.
That's kind of where this road leads to. And that's how, I mean, it's a massive, just like, iOS and xCloud coming to iOS is a major step to getting Game Pass into billions of people's hands. It's the same story with Switch and trying to get people into the Xbox ecosystem through a Nintendo Switch. I feel like there's all these different contraptions. You can get your controller and it can hold the phone kind of on top of it. There's all these different things, and everything is all they're all trying to do is feel like a Switch. Like Nintendo has already figured out what it's supposed to feel like to hold a screen and controller in your hands is a Switch. Nothing else feels quite right, and they just nailed it. So Xbox, I think, is incentivized to do it. Now, again, do you think this is real? Do you within this year, do you think this is something that we could see maybe at like E3 or something like that?
I think that by the end of the year, we will see this happen. That's the Ryan Turford going out on a limb.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
Yes, it'll happen. Yeah.
I think I'm with you. I think it will also, like I said, I think it will sell Switches. I think it'll help Xbox as well. And wouldn't that be amazing? Think about like either E3 or the Game Awards, right? Where these two can kind of come together. And meanwhile, like Sony is still off in the corner playing with their ball. Like what a year, that would complete like this and all these rumors are. That's all we're talking about. Like this massive Switch. I mean, the Nintendo Switch. So there you go.
I mean, it would perfectly prime the Super Switch. Getting ready with a Halo. Imagine playing Halo Infinite on your bed or your couch while on your Super Switch, Sean.
That'd be crazy.
Cool would that be? The advertisement writes itself.
Pretty much.
You don't even need me to come up with that. Mm-hmm. But Sean, we're running low on time, so we're going to let some of our friends into the car with us, of course. It's time for the carpool. It was fun to go do Rivers this time.
It was fun.
That was actually a cool idea. We're going to start with Todd Oxtra at Toxtra, and he asks, what's your least favorite Xbox franchise, and what would you have the dev team that makes instead? Now, Todd, I'm going to throw it out there. Usually we like to deal with positivity on the show.
Yeah, it's so negative.
But we're going to humor Todd and go with Todd's question here. So, Sean, is there a least favorite Xbox franchise of yours that maybe you feel like they don't need to work on?
There was that one year where they kind of kicked off the whole, like, our games are coming to Game Pass day and date, and they let off with Sea of Thieves, which I won't poop on, Chris Johnson. But State of Decay, I'm not sure is like A-tier stuff. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. But Crackdown, I think could go away. I think is actually the one that kind of comes to mind for me.
You probably already got your wish. I don't see them ever going back to Crackdown again, Sean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bland explosion in the chest is Sea of Thieves. He said it.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere, dude. I don't want that to go anywhere. It's got tens of millions of people going there. That's like, nobody's playing Crackdown. It's a safer bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, especially out of all the franchises that Microsoft's currently working on, there isn't really one that doesn't excite me. So, I don't know what my least favorite one would be that they're currently working on. Again, my answer actually would have been Crackdown as well, because I don't think they ever should go back to that franchise again. I don't think they ever need to. As much as I thought Crackdown 3 was okay, yeah, I would rather see them work on something else, especially because like the hodgepodge of studios that worked on Crackdown 3 isn't really making too many new games.
That's just it. I was looking at that, like trying to answer the second part of the question. Like, I don't even know how to do that because you're right. There's so many teams kind of working on that. I mean, there's also the technology side of it too, like how cloud power was supposed to power like a more, I don't know, destructible environment or whatever the hell it was supposed to do.
Yeah, like the mass destruction in the multiplayer. It was supposed to power, which again was bigger than the actual single player from playing it, because I did a review on Crackdown 3 back in the day. And but it was not pretty. Mm-mm. So and this, I think it's just a testament to where Xbox is with its franchises now, where it's like the games that they've announced, whether it's Avowed, Perfect Dark, Fable, like those are all franchises I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So or even something like Hellblade from Ninja Theory. Like I can't think of a game franchise that I'm less invested in. The one thing I will probably say maybe is Grounded, only because I liked Grounded a little bit when it came out, but I don't know if it needs to be like this big, long thing that they pour a ton of development time into.
Right.
So maybe that might be my only answer.
Oh, interesting.
Because Sea of Thieves, again, another game that even though I'm not really into, because I'm not really into pirates, I respect people that are into Sea of Thieves. I think that's great. I love seeing people tweet about Sea of Thieves all the time and how into it they are. So, yeah, I would say from Todd's question, probably Grounded. But honestly, again, I don't even think it's a bad idea that they're working on that game. So,
yeah.
There you go. Bleeding Edge, though, the real answer, don't go back to Bleeding Edge. And the other question we got this week from Anti-Macro, at Anti-Macro, which I love this question, too, because he actually filmed it in his car. I don't know if
this is so good. Yeah, made me transcribe it, too. Thanks.
He says, we didn't get Cyberpunk 2077 on Game Pass like Sean hoped. Will we get EA's Battlefield 6 day and date on Game Pass? And this was another one of the rumors that came up, Sean. So are you going to place your bets that we're going to get Battlefield 6 on Game Pass, Sean? Day and date?
Well, I don't know if I appreciate you upping the ante on Anti-Macro's question here. I got to put dollars behind this thing. I don't know if I'm ready to put dollars to donuts on it, but I do think that, like, you know, we look at the relationships. The EA has a strong relationship with Xbox. I think this is a possibility. It almost seems like everybody's landed on this, though, Ryan. Like, I kind of want to check on that just because everybody's like, it's Battlefield. And it's like, what else could it be? Like, you know, I don't know. Ubisoft tells us everything that's coming up there, and there's rumors about that whole relationship. Kind of maybe there's whatever it's called, Ubiplay coming to. Is that what it's called? Ubiplay?
I think it's Ubisoft. It's not Ubisoft Connect. It's something similar to that. It doesn't matter.
Too many
Ubisoft
brands.
service.
Ubisoft's thing. I don't know. It is very possible, and I think it does make a lot of sense when you think about how Battlefield has typically come up against other first-person shooters, and the way that Outriders obviously had a huge success. For Battlefield to be just placed into the hands of whatever it is, 22 million people or something on Game Pass right now, I think that would be pretty massive. And I would like to see a bit more of a roadmap, by the way, while we're talking about it, a bit more of a roadmap on, like, every month, big drop from other exclusives coming in that they're not even exclusive. They're just coming to Game Pass day and date, or you could pay $70 in PlayStation Land. I'd like to see that become the narrative of 2020 or 2021 for Xbox.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that whenever there's going to be a big release like we saw with Outriders or the show, like they're going to give you plenty of notice that they're coming to Game Pass day and date. I honestly don't believe the Battlefield rumors, only because EA is going to be probably EA about it and give you the trial and then give you Battlefield 6 next year or something in Game Pass. Like, I don't know. I don't personally think it's going to be day and date. I could be wrong about this. I'm not willing to put down the money against Badbit. I'm sorry, Badbit's trying to get you to bet with him in the chat, Sean. But I'm not putting money down on
I can see Cyberpunk coming into Game Pass. Like, that's the thing. I feel like that could be part of. And I don't know if that, like I was about to say, is part of the redemption story, and I don't know if that would make people feel better or worse. You know, like that now that it works is now into Game Pass and everybody paid full price for it, you know, the previous year. I'm not really sure. Badbit's in the chat still saying, show me the money. I did pay for my bet. I made a bet and I paid for it. So, and I didn't even get to play the game. So there you go. But I don't it is born out of this rumor that it's a first person shooter coming to day and date, coming to Xbox. I'm not sure what else there is.
Between Battlefield 6 and Back 4 Blood and Call of Duty, those are really the only shooters that we kind of know about for this fall.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it could be those, it could be something else.
What about Far Cry?
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But we don't know if that's a fall game or if that's
keep delaying even know when that's keep pushing it. That actually does make a lot of sense. I feel like Far Cry does make quite a bit of sense.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if we keep hearing about the Ubisoft titles all coming as well at some point. So, anyways, Sean, we got to go. But before you go, Sean Pugs.
What a fun episode that we just did live on the Yumi Capri live stream day. Ryan Turford. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. You can listen to my podcast, We the Gamercast, where I have sweet hangs with strangers from the internet. Next episode people are going to be listening to is with Lord Cognito from Iron Lord's podcast. I'm going to be recording that later on today. I am so looking forward to that. There's probably a bunch of other stuff that I could plug at this point. You can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sean Capri. And I think that's going to be it for me this time, my friend.
Very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, on Twitter at the Xbox Drive, or on podcast services around the globe. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 185 of the Xbox Drive, only 15 episodes away from 200, and we're out.
Apparently we're going to be doing a countdown to the 200th episode for another couple of months, and I just had Ryan cut out on my end, but you guys can probably still hear him on the audio version. I'm really excited to continue to stream for the rest of this 10-hour stream on Yumi Capri Day. Bye.